Everybody knows that sleep is really important, but how important is it for health, and in particular for children? How important is sleep in the development of a child's growth and their functioning at school? We have a pretty good idea how it impacts adults and older children, but how about young children? We all know they become really grumpy when they don't sleep. And sleep is something that is a lot more complex. I mean, why do we sleep? Why do we need to sleep? Sleep, in a way, is a rejuvenation of all our neurochemicals. Our brains are highly tuned sports cars that need regular servicing. They need oil change, brake fluid change. They need those neurotransmitters that need to be rejuvenated and replaced. The sleeping process is part of that process. Scientists have done research and shown that in rat models, rats that are kept awake and that don't go into that deep sleep and that REM sleep, and that are prevented from sleeping, in fact, develop brain damage and actually die. Now that sounds a bit dramatic, but for children, they are going a lot faster than you and I. Their brains are full of lots of different developmental changes. Their brains are challenged. They're at school, they're using them a lot more in lots of academic ways than older adults. So the other thing that we've got to think about is at high school, adolescence, sleeping difficulties tend to kind of start once children hit adolescence. Sleep is literally a superpower. Not sleeping is like taking 10 IQ points and just throwing them away. Not being able to think clearly, to be able to access your higher functions during a daily task, even if it's an adult at work or a child at school or someone preparing for a test or even during an exam or test. Sleep is an interesting thing. So you start off in a sleepy mood and you go into that deep sleep. You go into that literally that almost a level of an anesthetic where your brain is being rejuvenated. It is being repaired. All those neurochemicals are being bathed. And getting rid of memories that you don't need, getting rid of clutter. Think about it. It doesn't really matter what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago. It's no good retaining that information. Your brain gets rid of stuff that it doesn't need and retains the things, consolidates those memories that you need. So having a really good sleep routine is vital. And I'm going to share with you just now some important tips and things that can be done in a natural way to enhance and improve sleep. So there are two types of problems that occur when you can't sleep. And that's at the end of the day when you're not tired, you're actually full of energy. If you feel or your child feels that they're not sleepy, they haven't exerted enough energy during the day. They need to be tired. So if they're sitting, they're not being active. That was a big problem last year during the lockdown. Children just weren't tired. So they need to exert physical energy. A young child who starts school, any parent knows that a child who's having difficulty sleeping, if they're outside exercising, active, at the end of the day they sleep well. And that is also something that applies to adults and older children. And then there's a group that are kind of tired but can't switch off. Their brain's so hyperactive, it's so busy, and those are problems with children that have concentration problems, that have impulsive, busy minds, those ADHD children. And also young children that are very busy. So we need to kind of have a system and a routine to help them switch off. Hyperstimulation with visual stimulation from screens, the blue light from screens switching off their melatonin, which is needed for sleepiness. And then nutritional factors. Children that have challenges with sleeping, there's something called L-tryptophan. It is an amino acid and an essential amino acid that all of us don't produce. We've got to take it in our diets. So that's also something that children who have difficulty sleeping, there are natural foods that can really make a difference. In the evening, things like bananas, tuna, not that you want to eat tuna in the evening necessarily, but peanut butter, nuts, dairy makes a big difference. Almonds. Those are foods that have tryptophan. Those are the precursors of the sleepy hormone as well as neurotransmitters. A good routine, if you go to bed at the right time, the same time, you wake up at the same time, your brain has an internal clock that eventually wakes you up at a certain time. Children and adolescents need a lot more sleep because they're more active, their brains are developing. So I would encourage you to rediscover what it's like to have a good routine and get your children to sleep. If they're having sleeping difficulties, that's something I deal with. And I've got some free courses in our new website called guidelittleminds.com. Go on there, doesn't cost you anything, register. There's some courses on a wide range of things. I encourage you to discover that. And I'll be putting some tips on sleeping, and it can really rediscover your children's academic work, making sure that they're fresh, they're at school, they're engaged, they are able to really maximize their potential. So let's make sure 2021 we start to deal with all these kind of areas that can naturally make a big difference. Exercise, nutrition, sleep. Those are things that are free that we can make a big, big difference to our children's lives.